Hi, this is the Bullard Farm Benchmark, the Camp Wanocksett podcast. This is your host, Adam Morse. The Bullard Farm Benchmark comes to you from the shores of the Thorndike at the base of Mount Monadnock. On this show, we bring you stories, anecdotes, and lore of Wanocksett history, and showcase different programs and opportunities uniquely available to the Wanocksett experience. Our goal is to bring Camp Wanocksett to all campers, scouts, caregivers, and adult leaders, and to keep camp alive for our alumni near and far. On this episode, we learn more about the Wanocksett Players, the Camp Wanocksett house band. Music is and has always been an integral part of the Wanocksett experience, and to that end we sit down with current members of the band to learn more about where the Thursday evening rock and roll show came from, the music the band plays, and what the future holds for continuing to bring music to campers at Camp Wanocksett. Please stay tuned for our conversation with lead guitarist Mike O'Neill, drummer Dawson Sinclair, and trombone player and multi-instrumentalist Tom Jufrey. Alright, so we're gathered here in the studio this evening. It is Thursday of week 5, 2023, and we're here to talk about the Wanocksett Players, the Wanocksett house band. And we just finished up a performance, and we have with us 3 of the other performers in the band who agreed to hang out a little bit later on while the energy was still a little warm from the performance and discuss not just tonight, but the whole project of the Wanocksett Players and our experience playing together and how that originated. So first of all, we have Mike O'Neill. Michael, say hello.
Hi there.
We have Dawson Sinclair.
How's it going?
And Tom Jufrey.
Yo.
Of course, I'm Adam Morse. And so, these guys have all been in the band for several years. And, one thing I want to talk about just to begin is how the Wanocksett Players originated, how they began, and where all that came from. And so I can give a little bit of history there. But you guys, I want to hear from all of you in terms of your individual experience and what you bring to it personally and everything. I don't know if any of you guys know when it first started. You know?
I do not know.
It was 17, right? 17, 16?
It was before that even.
Yes.
Because I know I've heard you talk about it.
Yes.
But why don't you go back?
So the first iteration of the Wanocksett Players goes back to 2009.
Oh, okay.
And I was not involved in it at that time. It was a band that played one song at the closing campfire in 2009, and that was a Wanocksett cover of Don't Stop Believing.
Nice.
Okay? So you had some old-time staff members in the band. You had Ben Renda. Okay, Ben Renda was a long-time staff member. He played the lead guitar, electric guitar, and Alex Fiedler, former staff member, sang the lead. He just sang. I think a guy named Jake Whitney played the bass, but I can't confirm that. I don't know what Jake Whitney did. He was from Derry. And then Luke Steer played one snare or something like that, one cymbal. It was really stripped down.
Two-piece drum set.
Right. And I think Kevin Marshall was on the saxophone or something like that. So it was and there might have been 1 or 2 other musicians. Oh, Jonathan Ho from 500 Amherst played the bass line on a cello.
Nice.
So that was pretty interesting as well.
Yeah.
So that was the first time it ever happened. And so then it went away in 2010. The whole band disappeared. They didn't come back. The entire band did not come back to camp. The band's gone. So in 2011, I tried to resurrect the whole thing. And I went and I got one of my junior staff members in nature, Dan Enders from Bolton. I got him to play the drums because he was a drummer. He had a drum set. Ben Renda played little guitar. And I played the banjo. Okay?
Sweet.
And we had Ellis Fall, who is from Sterling, and Ellis played rhythm guitar. And so we did one song at the closing campfire, just like in 2009, and that song was Beatles' I've Just Seen a Face. One song, and that was it. And that was my first attempt at really putting it together. And then in 2017 is when really it all merged back again. Stadnicki was here, Ethan Stadnicki, and we were able to really put a cohesive unit together that functioned as a band. And I think we did 2 or 3 songs at the campfire, closing campfire, 17, 18, 19, right? Then COVID happened, and then we came back in 21, and Will Neville called me, and he said, we can't do the Wanocksett Players on Friday night, because it's too much of a hassle. And you guys can probably remember it was an infrastructural mess to get everything down there for 1, 2, 3 songs at the max, break it down on the stage, take it off the stage for the rest of the campfire program to continue.
Right.
It was pretty stressful. If
Yeah.
you remember. So Will thought he was going to have a big battle in terms of getting me to have it at a whole separate time. And I'm like, you're giving me like a whole hour to like just play separately? No, I want that.
Yeah, that's what we want.
That's what we want. And he's like, there's no fight? I'm like, there's absolutely no fight. This is a
Give
glorious
us.
revolution right here. So that was great. And so, since 21, and with Dawson when you were here, right, I think, and Michael, you were coming up, and Tom, you were here.
I was
and
here
you played in
21.
19 as well.
I was here 19 too.
Right. So we have all been in the most recent iteration of the Wanocksett Players, which is really cool. And it's an incredible thing for me as a musician, of course, to make it happen, to play the songs we play, to have all the musicians that we have come up that aren't, you guys aren't even working here, and you're coming up. And it's so meaningful, not just for me, but for the campers, I'm sure, as well.
Oh, yeah.
Mm-hmm. So I just want to ask you individually, Michael, Dawson, and Tom, how do you identify as a musician? And where does your training come from? And how do you apply that to the Wanocksett Players? I think these are important questions, artistically, that I think are very relevant for the sounds that we try and bring to the campers here. Michael, would you like to go first?
Sure. So a lot of my experience with being a musician has come from sort of just a place of mental peace. When I was a kid, I started playing the piano, and I was kind of just fooling around on it before I actually started taking lessons, and it was kind of just a thing that was for fun. And then I started taking lessons, and the joy was quickly sucked out of it, and it became something that I dreaded on a weekly, bi-weekly basis. And then before starting high school, I started playing the guitar, and it was more just one of those things where it was, I had heard a song. Honestly, I think it was Wagon Wheel, which we were just having a conversation about. And I think it was actually seeing, it was playing during an end of the week slideshow. And I was like, all right, I feel like I want to learn guitar now. And from there, it was kind of just picking songs that I wanted to learn, figuring out what chords went into them, and then later on, as I learned more, it was learning what techniques would go into the different songs and adding the nuance that belongs in those songs. Mm-hmm. But aside from that, it's my teaching has mostly just been myself and what I listen to and what I decide to play.
Mm-hmm. So you're really an ear musician for the most part. Yeah. And what genres of music in regard to the electric guitar do you most feel associated with? I mean, what draws your attention the most?
Definitely a lot of rock. When I was a kid, there were a lot of very, just popular rock songs that were very heavy in the electric guitar. And so, turning up the drive on an amplifier and, going into it is very appealing. At the same time, I really like country music. That's not so much what we play, but in my own time, when I'm able to sit down with an amp and an electric guitar, it's nice to sort of fool around with what country riffs I can play.
Cool. Now, Dawson, I know very little, honestly, about your background. I know you played in school, right?
Yeah.
A little bit? Maybe a jazz band or something like that?
Yeah, so I started with music all the way back in the 3rd grade. I started just on drum set. The music company came to the school and showcased all the instruments, and I just, drums caught my attention. And so I got into it. I was playing in the concert bands. I was doing lessons and all that. Drum set was my main instrument until about middle of middle school, 6th, 7th grade. I joined the marching band, and then I really started getting into rudimental percussion, marching drums, and that's where I think it kind of I started growing a lot as a musician, kind of incorporating drum set with jazz and rock in the jazz band, and then marching, just pure rudimental drumming, increasing my skills. And then I kind of just took that further and further. I still play a lot of jazz in the jazz band. I love jazz, soul, funk, all that. And then of course I still do marching band. Going into college, still going to be doing marching band, and that has taken me to music production and getting into all that. That's kind of my next journey. But yeah, I mean, I really value being able to just walk into a situation like this, like our band, and just be able to just play, just, have the building blocks in your tool set kind of in your brain and just be able to play along. And this is a perfect environment to practice this. Like going on 2 years now.
That's great.
Yeah.
You were an Oakmont child, wouldn't you?
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah.
Good band.
Chris
Good band.
Demora, Oakmont Spartans, all the way. You know, yeah, it was a great music program to come up in.
Oh yeah.
I would characterize you, Dawson, and this is me not being theoretically trained or classically trained in any way, being a folk musician. I see you as a rhythm and blues drummer, and that's how I interpret at least what you do. Would that be an accurate representation?
I think so, especially for here. Yeah, I think that's just kind of the vibe that I got when I came in here, and I just kind of stuck with it. I don't play like a ton of like rhythm and blues outside. Like I play, you know, like a lot of jazz. Like jazz band is just big band,
right?
And funk and all that. But yeah, I mean, that's kind of what I picked up on when I started playing with you guys.
Cool. Now, Tom, your experience goes back very far. That's been my assumption, but I really don't know when you started playing music.
Yeah, so, I mean, if you really want to go all the way far back, my mom has videos of me being like 4 years old running around singing honky tonk badonkadonk around the house. But, no, I guess really formal training, I would say. I started in 4th grade. I picked up the trombone solely because I wanted to make the wah, 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 wah noise. And that was all I wanted to play the trombone for. And yeah, I came through a fantastic program under the direction of Kevin Tellier. He was the director of bands for that school for 35 years almost. Absolutely fantastic teacher. Very much you learn music by enjoying it type fellow, which has really stuck with me. Then I went through high school. I did pretty much everything. I took piano lessons for a while, though I never really was good at it. I took guitar lessons for a while, but my fingers were too fat. But once I entered high school, I started playing in the marching band. I started playing in the indoor percussion program. I started playing in the jazz bands, and it was a lot of fun. And shortly after, I started working here when I first joined the band. Actually, backtrack to 2 years. When 2017 rolls around and the band is playing on stage, I'm watching it from the stands. And I'm like, I want to do that. So when I first got on staff, I immediately, like, as soon as I was hired, was like, okay, how do I get in the band? How does this work? And I really actually characterize joining the band as a turning point in my life entirely. Wow. So I went into the 2019 Scout Camp season thinking I'm going to be an electrical engineer. Wow. And though I went in there and then I started playing in the band, and there's something about the band kind of getting thrown into the water in some sense, because it's almost all improv, especially for the horns. It's almost all figure it out on the fly, see what sticks, things like that. And that, in my opinion, is the purest form of music that can come from somebody, because it's entirely what's coming through them. And sometimes it doesn't necessarily stick. Sometimes you play some weird, funky notes. Sometimes you're absolutely grooving with everybody, and it's a fantastic time. And after finding that groove, I really decided, well, I like teaching and all the things that I figured out through the Scout Camp, and I like the music, so bingo. So now I go to the Hart School of Music in Connecticut for music education. Now, the Hart School of Music is a conservatory, and conservatories, like Michael said, formalized music training kind of tends to pull the fun out of it. So in some cases, I have a lot of fun. In a lot of cases, it's why aren't you practicing enough? You need to practice more. So, is it good training? Yes, entirely. Is the band an escape for me to just play freely what I please? Oh, heck yes it is. I don't have to worry about my 4-page, 22-minute solo piece. in the band. Instead, I just get to sort of go straight through and flow.
Right.
But yeah, I kind of credit the band with doing a lot more with my life than yeah.
That's incredible. It's interesting to hear, Tom, like, when you saw us on stage, 17, 18, and so forth,
Yeah.
when you were a camper.
Yeah.
And, you know, that was a time when, like, you probably knew who I was, but I didn't necessarily know who you were.
Yeah.
And that's common between, like, campers and staff members. But you were having that experience. You were absorbing what was going on.
Exactly. I still think the funniest thing about like 2017 or 18, I can't remember which one it is, but I'm sitting there watching and like the band like fluctuated between 2 years. Like, you know, 1 year you had Callum Glazer in the background vocals. Other years, you know, it was a, you know, wide variety of people. So I remember when I first joined the band, it was like, okay, these are all people that I've like seen up there before. Like, how do I fit in? You know, you know, a classic. A little bit of an imposter syndrome in some cases.
Interesting.
But, you know, you find your own path.
Right. I mean, little did you probably know, Tom, but, like, I was doing all of it basically by the seat of my pants. Because I had never arranged a band like this before.
Yeah.
And, you know, I started out, as you guys probably know, as a bluegrass banjo player, going way back to when I was 10. And I took lessons, and I had a little band, and I played around Boston, did gigs and stuff like that. And then when I was about 18, I started playing the guitar more and trying to learn how to sing more. Because you can't really sing with the banjo. You can't start out learning how to sing with the banjo. Unless you're like a prodigy.
Right.
But like, I needed to hear the bass notes. I needed to hear chords in a more resonant way.
Right.
So that's when I got into the guitar, and my interest started changing. And I've always been interested, of course, in American music, in roots music, rock and roll, blues, folk music, the whole gamut. And so I was interested in how, of course, can you bring that sort of rootsy rhythm and those approaches to a setting where people normally have never heard those types of sounds or rhythms or songs before, you know. And, you know, it's not like every camper is going to walk away and be like, oh, I'm going to go look up that song, I'm going to go look up that song. I have maybe 2-3 kids a summer that come into the administration building and say, can you print me off the set list? I'm like, yes, absolutely, I will happily do that. It doesn't happen every day. But, like, I, of course, have had objectives with what songs we all can play, and it's also about we all come with different backgrounds, as we've outlined, and diverse abilities. And, you know, I'm not a great guitar instrumentalist, really. I'm more of an instrumental banjo player, but the banjo doesn't exist in, like, this kind of dance music that we do, which I think is mostly dance music. So, I don't know, I think, I'm curious from all you also, like, what is the purpose, do you think, of doing the band at camp? Why do we do this? I have, of course, my objectives that I was talking about, and, you know, bringing these rootsy, you know, types of styles to younger people who normally would never hear them. But for each of you independently, what do you think the purpose is, Michael?
I mean, I think having an opportunity to listen to live music in any capacity is always a draw, and I think that goes very well hand in hand with the program that we run at Wanocksett. You know, you're away from your everyday life for a week, and you're experiencing different things, and, you know, in your everyday life you may be in situations where you come across a lot of live music. I feel like most of the kids that come up here don't. But even if you do, the music that we play isn't exactly, you know, the type of thing that you're going to turn on the radio and hear. You know, it's popular in certain groups, but it's not, you know, mainstream, quote unquote.
No, right.
And so I think sort of giving the kids and the adults too, like, exposure to other genres, I think is a good way to sort of enhance the program and also maybe spark interest or curiosity in whoever hears it.
Right. Dawson, what do you think?
I think that, you know, adding music to our program here at Wanocksett, you know, we're kind of like an everything camp. We have something for every kid that comes through here, and adding that, you know, there's kids every single time that I play that are just, you know, locked on one of the players, you know, no matter what they're interested in, and they're just like focusing in, and they're just taking it all in, and they love it. And, you know, even if it, you know, not everyone is focused on, you know, everything that's being played, it's a great, like, it's just great for people to be able to experience that, you know, like if they haven't ever been able to necessarily see live music like that. I feel like the song selections that you pick out just like lend themselves well to a camp, outdoor, you know, rootsy environment. And it's just, it's calming. It's a great way to end one of the nights, and it's just a great program to have. I think definitely.
Right. Tom, what do you think?
So, all right. As a music major in college, of course, I'm going to have the opinion of music should be in everyone's lives in some way, shape, or form. And one of the amazing things that I've heard from the band is, now that we've done it for like multiple years straight, especially our hour-long set recently, I've had, in both 22 and 23, I had kids come up to me and say, hey, I started playing the guitar a little bit after last year. Or I had a kid who was like, yeah, I just started playing trombone, and this is really cool. So, of course, I'm always going to be on a little side quest of that stuff. But at the same time, just the importance of people being able to find music that they can just hear and enjoy, get away from their day-to-day problems. That's another great thing about camp in general. It's not day-to-day very much. So, like, the day-to-day struggles don't necessarily exist as much here. So, just having that musical set on top of that is overall just absolutely fantastic. Now, with Adam's set list, of course, some of it quite a bit rootsy, laid back, not necessarily what the kids consider hip nowadays. No, but you know what?
No, I don't.
The kids, they find something new in it and they enjoy it. I mean, the performance we just had a giant conga line in the weight.
I know.
Like, so they find some way new to enjoy this music. They may not be entirely familiar with, but you're sure that they've heard somewhere before.
Right.
Yeah.
You know, and I think I'm always open to, like, if there's newer songs out there that we can do, it's also a function of the resources we have, the time we have to prepare everything, which is very limited.
Oh, yeah.
You know, and we, of course, try and practice once a week if we're all able to get there together, but it's difficult. Earlier in the summer, we try and, Tom, you know, we get it done.
Oh, yeah.
You know, to really get the set list together. But once we got it organized, it's like, you know.
Once you're, like, in week 3, week 4, it's like, yeah, practice.
Right. And, you know, but by that point, we're pretty confident with what we're doing, you know, I think. But it's a function of all those things, the kind of set list that we are able to put together, I think, and what styles people can play, and, like, what I can sing, and what the other vocalists are able to sing, and, like, that sort of thing, too. So I want it to be accessible. Like, that's the big thing for me.
Yeah, I think the other thing with your set... Sorry, did I cut you off?
No.
Oh, okay, cool. I think the other thing with your set list is you have fun with your set list. Now, my big musical philosophy is music should be fun first and foremost, and that's how you get the kids into, like, music programs across the country and just enjoying music on their own as well. And basically all of us are up there having a blast, which is what really shows the kids, like, hey, that's awesome. I mean, have you ever gone to, like, a concert and the guy goes up there, he's like, hello, my name is Billy, and I'm going to play you a song. Like, no one wants to, like, you know, they don't look like they're having fun. They look like they're just sort of there for the paycheck.
Right.
So, I think with the set list we all have fun with it. And that's one of the biggest parts.
Right. And I think if we're having fun, the campers seem to find a way to have fun as well.
Oh, right. It's always lively.
Right. And I think it's interesting. I mean, I want to talk for a moment about just the dancing that the campers concoct for themselves.
Every time.
Which I think is, you know, they're taking maybe dances or, you know, approaches they're familiar with, whether it's they're taking dance in school or it's just, you know, current contemporary trends in dance, and they're merging that with whatever songs that we're playing, which I think is just, like, very syncretic, and it's just very interesting that, like, you have a conga line for the weight. I mean, that's not something a band sung by the band, typically you wouldn't see a conga line.
Exactly.
And if any of the 5 original members of the band would see that, they'd be like, what the heck is going on here? You know, but the campers are finding a way to have fun with what they're hearing. And when we launched into Johnny Be Good this evening, the temperature of the atmosphere of the room just totally changed.
Oh, yeah.
Definitely.
And you know, I mentioned it to you earlier. I think that was probably one of our smoothest run-throughs of Johnny Be Good. And the energy, I think, within the band, but also the energy that all the kids and all the leaders had. I think it was really positive. I think it went really well.
It was great.
Right.
Yeah.
I like creating a feeling of, we talked about this a second ago, but in choosing the set list, it's not just like what we can all play, but creating the kind of, an atmosphere of like what it feels like to be at camp. And maybe that's a little stereotypical, maybe a little mythological, maybe I'm trying to like go along with what an idea of what I think camp is supposed to be. But like a song like Helpless, which is what we open with, which is a Neil Young song, the song written by a Canadian songwriter about Canada, right? There is a town in North Ontario, like that's the first line. But the thing is, the description of the natural environment and the landscape that Neil Young has in the lyrics could theoretically be Camp Wanocksett, except as saying North Ontario, but like blue windows behind the stars.
Sure? We're pretty north.
Blue windows behind the stars and yellow moon on the rise. Like you have those sorts of feelings, especially tonight when we have close to what is I think a full moon.
Yeah, full moon was a couple nights ago.
So it's waning now, but you have that element of the sky and the natural environment. The evening is coming through the lyrics while we're playing, and dusk is coming in. It's 8 o'clock, it's getting darker, and that sort of thing. And then when we do Harvest Moon, which is a song we added this year, which is a song I love, and I think that was a good performance tonight as well. A song in drop D on the guitar, a song in D, and it's just a really mellow tune in like 2/4 time or whatever it is.
That was a good one. I enjoyed that.
Yeah. So I like to sort of construct that emotion with the songs we're doing, the sounds of the songs, the rhythms, the lyrics as well. And people aren't listening to every single word. They're not hanging on every line. But at the same time, like, the feeling comes across, even if you're not, like, listening actively to everything. I think that's interesting.
Yeah.
So, I guess to try and conclude everything, what sort of vision do you guys have individually for the future of the Wanocksett Players? What would you like for it to be in the future? Whether you're able to be involved or not, what would you like to see it grow into? Michael.
I think it would be good if it can continue to be a consistent part of the Wanocksett experience. Personally, I don't work here anymore, and I find it to be a good opportunity to return to the property, see everybody, sort of get a taste of the program, having not been part of it for a couple of years now, and like I said, I think it's an important part of the experience in general. With that said, I think that you, Morse, and I have also talked about exploring other areas and expanding to other opportunities, while maintaining while maintaining a presence here. But I think we want to refine a little bit and develop something solid that we can possibly bring to other venues and possibly do some more recording. We've done some recording in the past, and it's been sort of slapped together. We were still figuring our stuff out, and at that point it was just you, me, Luke Steer, and Ethan Stadnicki in the boathouse, and now I think it's grown since then, and it's been refined since then, and I think with a little bit more polish, it can turn into something more firm and more consistent.
Right. Dawson, what do you think?
So just having been in the band for the past 2-3 years, I think, since COVID. I no longer work here either, but they say it all the time. Wanocksett is my scouting home, and it's really, really nice to be able to come back here, even if I'm not working here, to be able to come and play. And I hope that other people who are either working here or plan on working here can see that there's all kinds of people. We had an older gentleman playing with us tonight that I didn't even personally know, but it was awesome to have him playing with us. But like, I hope that can inspire other campers or staff members to come play with us and keep it going. And I personally want to continue with this for a while longer, and talking about expanding the band, refining the band, definitely something that I'd like to see in the future. You know, going into sound recording at college, definitely something that I would love to take part in. But you know, the Wanocksett Players is amazing, and I think that it definitely just needs to like stay a part of the program and grow even further. You know.
Yeah. Tom, what do you think?
You know, I've been sitting here while both Mike and Dawson have talked about it. I've been thinking to myself, what direction should the Wanocksett Players go? And the answer is very difficult because, like, you know, it can go anywhere, really. I mean, I still find myself when I go back to college, I start whistling, you know, I start whistling the way, or like when I'm warming up, I'll play the da 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 from the Hoochie Coochie Man, which like it's weird in the college setting because nobody knows it. So it's like they're all like, "What are you doing?" And I'm like, "Oh, this thing from the."
I'm playing blues. Is what I'm doing.
I'm playing blues. That's what I'm doing. So yeah, but I think really the Wanocksett Players just needs to stick around. For the reason of, you have all these kids who are first inspired to pick up music because of it, and like we see some of that happening, that in a couple of years maybe they can pull up to one of our performances and be like, "Hey, I've got my instrument, can I hop in with you?" And you're like, "Yeah, absolutely." I remember last year we had a scout, I believe his name was Rowan, who came up to me halfway through the set and said, "Hey, I have my trumpet in my campsite. Can I go get it?" And I said, "Sure, go get it." So he ran back, and like, you know, he played pretty decently for someone who just hopped into the band without hearing our set list before. Mm-hmm. However, he came back this following year, and his first words he said to me was, "Hey, do you remember who I am? Do you remember who I played trumpet with you." It was awesome. Yeah. So yeah, like it needs to stick around because we're inspiring people. We don't necessarily realize that we are here at Wanocksett. Right. We always mention like how this program is important for like the youth of tomorrow and so on and so forth. But like in reality, what we do here is we inspire people, and just through music is another way to do it. So really, as long as it's there, whatever it becomes in the future is fine by me.
Right, right. For those listeners that are maybe unfamiliar, I mean, it all came together in 17, 18, 19, and post-COVID, we're able to do a real performance, even going back to the earlier days like I was talking about. But it's also because we no longer have the Walkalo dance. And that's a big part of it. So this doesn't go on anymore. Walkalo is getting together with their brother camp Kingswood elsewhere in New Hampshire, and they're doing their own thing with them.
Man, what a breakup!
That's unfortunate. that's really unfortunate.
Yeah. So instead on Thursdays we have the ice cream social, give people some sugar, and then in Memorial Lodge we have the band starting when people get their ice cream. I think it's a brilliant combination.
Oh, it's absolutely fantastic.
It's perfect.
I mean, my town does that on the town fields every Tuesday. Right. They have a little band concert and a little bit of ice cream. It's a hit.
Proven formula.
Yeah, right. Proven formula.
Right.
But the Walkalo dance would appeal to a very specific age and a very specific demographic of scouts that we have here.
Indeed.
And I think that our concerts actually draw in more scouts than those did, because I remember also with the Walkalo dance, like my scoutmasters would never mention it like happening, like you would just stumble across it in the parking lot. So I think the band is so much more accessible and so much easier for any scout to walk in and enjoy.
Right, and I think there's more dancing going on with the Wanocksett Players than there was even at the Walkalo dance.
Yeah. I remember this was how the Walkalo dance would open. Like the scouts would be there having okay time. The Walkalo people would pull in, start going and having a good time, and just a ring of scouts standing there doing nothing would happen.
Right.
And then slowly it would break into it.
Well, then it would always inevitably devolve into that one song that they always danced to, and they had the very they had the whistles, and it was like a very like clearly rehearsed and choreographed dance. And
Yes.
that's just like the one thing that I remember. It's like, not that was a bad thing or anything. It was just a very interesting thing to like witness.
Exactly, because you had like I think the big ones that they really were into were like LMFAO's song "Shots" was a big one, as well as "Every Time We Touch," which we still like the staff still talk about a lot.
Right.
But I gotta say, like, I'm more inclined to take some Earth Angel over those.
Sure.
Maybe some Earth Angel, some Knocking on Heaven's Door. Some. I think our set list is a mix of a lot of fun, but also in some ways reflective.
Yes.
Which I really like its spot in the week, even though I do a bike ride and then I go swimming and then I really like its spot in the week because it's like, man, I've had a lot of fun so far this week.
Right. Out of all the songs that we've all played together, whether it was tonight's set list or another, set list from another night, another time, what is your individually, just to try and wrap everything up, what is the song that you enjoy performing the most with the Wanocksett Players? Michael.
I think the one that has to stick out to me is The Wait, and that's for a variety of reasons. Chiefly among them is that I think, Morris, it's the first song that you and I ever really worked together on and tried to arrange anything with. And so anytime I now play that song on my own, it's associated with a lot of memories of camp. But then it's also interesting because I'll run into people, both musicians and non-musicians, who know the song, and the musicians they're hyped to hear it and like hear that I know it and like will like go in and start playing it. Like I play with a group of people from Boston every now and then, and we were playing one day and a few of them knew The Wait because I had just started strumming it, and we kind of just like fell into it and like started playing the whole song, and so I have to say that's probably been the most impactful and the most memorable one for me.
Yeah. Dawson, what about you?
I personally really, really like Earth Angel. We usually do it like in the middle of our set, and it really sets the mood, kind of gets you in your feels. Like it brings out, like, that's the one that kind of brings out the camp vibe for me. That was, I think, like one of the first songs. Like I just like walked into one of the rehearsals and we played Earth Angel, and it was just a great experience. And I was like, I'm definitely coming back. It was like the first practice that I had ever done with you guys, and I was nervous, and it was a great experience. We played, it was great. Obviously kept coming back. So Earth Angel, that's a big one for me. I really, really like that one.
Tom.
So, kind of along the lines with Dawson, I think the first song I ever actually like stumbled into a band practice and tried to play was Knocking on Heaven's Door. And I've always loved that song. And a little embarrassing to say, but I didn't know it was a Bob Dylan song until I joined this band. So
I made sure of that.
Oh yeah, we made sure that was clear. Yeah. But I've always found that song to be a mix of like how we always, as a staff, we always talk about like how to shape a campfire in some sense. I think our set list is very similar. And Knocking on Heaven's Door allows that, like, all right, we're winding down now, and it's time to, like, reflect on what you've had, like, the fun. It's also one that, like, so many people know that it's easy for them to just jump in, know what's happening, and be excited for. I've just always liked Knocking on Heaven's Door.
Yeah. All great choices. I mean, in my case, it's very difficult, obviously, because these are all my favorite songs. But, I would say The Wait, certainly. I like doing Earth Angel. Knocking on Heaven's Door is great, too. It might be Knockin' for me as well, Tom. For the reason that what I do with it, and, the original song had only 2 verses on the record.
Right.
And Bob Dylan wrote that song for a movie called Pat Garrett and Billy the Kid.
Yes.
From like 1972, which is a Sam Peckinpah film. Not a great movie in terms of like plot. And Dylan's not a good actor. He's in the movie, too.
He's in the movie?
He's in the
oh,
movie.
no.
But Knocking on Heaven's Door is supposed to be about, like, you know, Billy the Kid's, like, meeting his maker. It's coming to a close. He can't be an outlaw forever, like, that sort of thing. So that's the mood. That's what the song was written about, but it becomes this, like, epically famous song, which is ironic. But, so there's those two verses on the original record. But then Dylan had a tour in 1975 called the Rolling Thunder Review, where he brought back all the great people from Greenwich Village in the early mid-'60s that he knew and played music with, and did a huge tour of New England and upstate New York in 1975. Boston, Portland, Maine, all over the place. And he sings some different verses on that tour. And so I'd sing one of them as the third verse, because I feel like the song is more well-rounded when you sing a third verse. That verse, "Mama, wipe the blood off of my face, I can't see through it anymore." I like adding that in. And nobody knows this except me, and I know that I'm doing this. But, you know, I'm tying that in a particular way, and I'm adding to the meaning and the message of the song, right? And the instrumentation that everybody pulls off is fantastic. I mean, what you do, Tom, what you do, Michael, and we've done it so many times. I just think it's a very tight performance that we do. I love The Weight as well, one of my favorite songs, but Knockin', like that's the penultimate song, the fact that we choose for it to be the penultimate song is also, I think, very significant in and of itself, you know. So I think that's really cool. Anyway, gentlemen, we got to conclude it now, but Michael, Dawson, Tom, thank you so much for being here.
Thank you.
Yeah, of course.
Of course.
You've been listening to the Bullard Farm Benchmark, the Camp Wanocksett podcast. Special thanks to all those who performed with the Wanocksett Players during the 2023 camp season. Mike O'Neill, Dawson Sinclair, Tom Jufrey, Brian Weidman, William Yang Goodwin, Trevor O'Brien, Toby Martin, Zach Corelli, Caleb Parra, David Urza, Luke Steer, Dan Starr, and CIT's Ben Shepard, Elon Cohen, and Kenai LeBlanc. This podcast is written, recorded, and produced by Adam Morris, Nick Hoff, and Andy Collins. The writing and planning of this episode is by Adam Morris and Nick Hoff. Editing is by Adam Morris. Distribution is by Nick Hoff and Andy Collins. Original music taken from the song The Grand Monadnock Blues is composed and performed by Adam Morris. See you next time.
Hi, I'm Mike O'Neill.
I'm Dawson Sinclair.
And I'm Tom Jufrey, and you're listening to
The Bullard Farm Benchmark, the Camp Wanocksett podcast.